Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from a wonderful light lunch, and I hope we are feeling ourselves enlightened after this. And it means we are ready to continue our day. Before that, as a short team build ice break before that, Arents, are you here in our studio? Yes, you are. Please stand up. You have a wonderful chance to the speakers of first part of the day, which are still here to give a nice Latvian presence. So the presents are here. Handshakes, camera is not catching that, so you can shake the hand really with enthusiasm. And I'm asking here in front, of course, the speakers from the first part of the day, and we're gonna start with Robert Medlin, please. Please, applause, applause, applause. Gift time, gift time. Stephen Quest, of course, Stephen Quest. Applause, applause. No exceptions. Elmars Gengers, please, are you here? A gift from us. We continue. Miss Rowan, please. Are you here, or you are already on our Baltic flying somewhere? Or just in IT center, so you can keep it. You can send the gift through email. Okay. Margarita, are you here? Thank you very much. Guna Paidere, definitely thank you from Latvians to Latvians. John Kutstra, also thank you very much for your input and gift. If I'm not mistaken, there is something you can eat inside, the intrigue. And Marianne Sorensen, also thank you very much. Marianne, already in Denmark, they are so fast with digital movement and everything else. Thank you very much. And we are here to continue our day. And our day we continue with the second set, private and public cooperation for efficient public service delivery. We know the rules of the game already, so we're going to start with 3 this time, 10 minutes presentations, and then we're going to switch over to panel discussion with the famous catch box. And we're going to start our short presentations in public-private field with Uldis Pabērzis, Chairman of the Board, Complete Payment Systems Latvia. Applause, please.
Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to participate in this conference, and I hope that all we get something interesting from it, what we can bring back home and implement wherever it could be applied. Today, I would like to tell you about what our company, together with other private partners, together with public partners, have achieved. And mainly it is about transparency, and especially in the management of public funds. By transparency, I not only mean what data government or municipality institutions have. I mean attitude change. Let's take an example. This is me, and I am aware that government and municipal institutions know a lot of things about me. Where do I live, how old I am, how much I earn, what taxes I pay, and etc., etc. But they know also my social status. But question is, what do we know about, on opposite, about government institutions, and what data they have, and how detailed information they know about us, and also about public services. are they transparent enough? We could take an example example about public transport. And public transport is usually subsidized by state or municipality, and those subsidies goes to public transport service providers. What we usually know about public transport companies? Usually what we hear from paper, TV, papers, internet, that usually they are loss-making. Public transport companies are loss-making. They do a lot of investment in infrastructure. They buy new buses, tires, fuel, cleaning stuff, etc., etc. Of course, it's in most cases it's all necessary, but what does it cost? What about the money? Let's take an example. Here's an old man. It's not me yet, maybe in some 30 years or later. Anyway, this person most probably is entitled for some social benefits. And let's look how it's done today. Usually, when the person is buying a ticket, some part of money comes from that person, and some part, in the sense of subsidies, are paid directly to the public transport company. This situation creates quite big room for conflict of interests in various levels. It is public transport companies interested in higher volume of subsidized clients. Not always exactly, it is not exactly same amount what they have actually served. Also, if you look at lower level, when it's point of sale, there's a conflict of interest for bus drivers as well, because they are those ones who make decisions whether such social status and should be applied for a concrete person. So it's a place for this conflict of interest, and also like temptation for involved persons to use it in their favor. Therefore, what we are here comes our solution, and it is change of method how public funds are applied for such public services. What we have done, we have taken existing banking infrastructure. So it's at current point, it's the best what we have at hand is contactless cards. In future, it might be mobile phone or whatever comes as a mean of payment. What we have applied our solution, so it is in real time. So it means that subsidies are applied at the moment when authorization or settlement of ticket purchase is done. It is available both offline, which is crucial for transport, as well as online for any other services what's necessary. And as it is banking infrastructure, it possesses all the elements of security what banking infrastructure is delivering. So it is not invented something new security. We are taking existing security levels what are in banking. What does it give us is that subsidies are applied at the moment when the actual transaction has happened. And they could be, they are visible at the reports what bank is supplying both to a person who is receiving service as well as a subsidy provider, which means that they get all this information whenever they look at their banking statements. And here comes this transparency. When we as a client or user of public services and a person who is willing to get as much information about public funds usage can do it through this system, which means that both sides, public service, public funds holder and recipient has the same information. And they look at it from both sides equally and get a full picture, how much the service costs and how much subsidy has been applied. So, now, instead of paying subsidies to transport company, our passenger gets social benefit directly to his or her personal bank account, and it happens when he or she is buying a ticket. And at the same time, full price of the ticket goes to bus or other public transport company, which means that they don't see any difference anymore between subsidized and not subsidized clients. And they shouldn't know any information about social status of that person. People get control over their resources and also resources which are passed over for public administration. So I would like to conclude this with some points. First of all, with such solution, we can get transparency on both sides, public and private. And we can, when we talked previously about digitalization and digital default, here we can see an example where not always we have to invent something totally from zero. We have quite a lot of digital solutions already there, which could be adjusted and applied to get the most value out of them, even in new areas. As in this case, its banking infrastructure has been used for public funds management. And another thing is that what we have done, we have tried to apply things what people are using already. It's usual bank card payment. It means that there is no new habits to learn. People know how to use banking instruments. So by using them, they are already participating in creation, control over public services. That's about it. Thank you very much for attention.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Uldis, Pabērzis. You can take the break. Afterwards, you're going to come back in the panel discussion. And the next one we invite here is Hans Arents from Flemish eGovernment Coordinator Unit, Belgium. So the Belgium experience, Mr. Arents, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me at this conference. After all this talk yesterday at the CEMIC conference and this morning about pan-European frameworks and cross-border interoperability standards, I want to talk about a more modest effort at the Flemish local government level to develop an interoperability standard together with the business world, which will make it easier, at least in Flanders, to improve local government service delivery. So what were the goals we were trying to achieve? What we tried to achieve is we realized, as most of you probably do, that local government is the first point of contact of most citizens and most enterprises. So all of us are busy developing portals at the national level and at the regional level, but in practice, most citizens get in touch with their government at the local level. So that's why we at the regional government consider it one of our main obligations to improve and enable these local governments to improve their electronic service delivery. One of the big problems they have there is to integrate with all the data services which we provide at the regional and at the national level. As most of you know, and as most European countries are doing, we also have a whole set of base registries and a whole set of services allowing you to access authentic data on persons, on businesses, and to provide that data to local government. What we saw is that these local governments had the big problems integrating with these data services. Typically, if you look, there are about 308 municipalities in Flanders. Some are only 5,000 people big, others are 200,000, 300,000 people, so there is a large disparity in how sophisticated these local governments are. So what we wanted to develop is a standard which makes it easier for local government to integrate with our national data services. At the same time, we wanted to avoid proprietary solutions. Typically, there are about 5 software vendors who provide software solutions to local government. And typically, each software solution is a whole package of integrated software. So once a local government chooses one of these software vendors, they're locked in for life. So what we wanted to have is a standard which would make it easier for local government to open up these software packages and to exchange data, not only inside their backend systems, but also between local governments. So we needed a data exchange standard which not only made it easier to talk to regional and national government, but also made it easier for local governments to talk to each other, because there is also a cross-border problem between local authorities. So what were the challenges there? What we saw is that the once-only principle was failing in practice. We have solutions at the national level and at the regional level to support this once-only principle. We have these base registries, we have service-oriented architecture, we have the platforms necessary to exchange data within regional government and between regional government and national government, but these solutions are typically too heavy and too sophisticated to be used by local government. So what we saw is that this once-only principle of you only need to give your data once was failing at the local level. People had to re-enter their information at the local level because the local level was unable to get authentic data from the regional or the national level. Another problem was that in order to access the data services, they typically had to go through very expensive integration efforts. These software products which are delivered by these software vendors are typically very closed products. So they only integrate with software packages of the same vendor and not with software packages of another vendor, let alone that they integrate easily with the service that we provide at the regional or national level. So it was crucial in the development of our standard to get these software vendors involved. Now you may ask yourself, how do you do that? Because it's actually against their better judgment to get involved. Well, what we did is, first of all, convince their salespeople. So we convinced their salespeople that by opening up their data packages, their software packages, it would be easier to integrate not only inside the backend of a local government, but it would also allow local governments to follow a best-of-breed approach. Instead of selecting only software from one particular vendor, a local government would be able to pick and choose software packages from different software vendors. So as long as these software packages were better in functionality or better in price, that was going to enable them to sell more of these software packages. So that was the first thing we did, convince their salespeople. And we were so successful in doing so that they even invested 5,000 euros each in the creation of the standard. Then we had to get the technical people involved, and that was a lot easier to convince them because these technical people typically are already convinced of the value of open standards and interoperable standards. They are even eager to open up their packages because that makes life simpler for themselves when they have to integrate their software packages with the software package of another vendor or with the back-end system of a local government. It's easier to do so if you have to follow one standard only and not a multitude of standards. Now, how did we design the standard? We did not design a standard top-down, so not an all-encompassing abstract data model. We started bottom-up, so starting from real data exchange problems. For example, at the national level, we have the Crossroads Bank of Enterprises, which tracks the whole life cycle of an enterprise from its creation to its merging with a different company to its bankruptcy. This is information which is not only important to know at the national, at the regional level, but also at the local level. Certainly, if we can localize this information, if we can tell to a local government what enterprises are located in your territory, that's important for a local government, not just for tax purposes, but also for developing their local government economic policy. So one of the first data objects which we modeled was actually businesses. A second thing which we modeled was contact information, because typically the address information which you get from the national level is the official address of a person, not the address where he actually lives, or not the address where he actually wants to be contacted, or we don't know what his email address is, or we don't know whether he prefers to be contacted by mobile phone. So this is contact information which we typically do not have as authentic data at the regional or at the national level, but which is very essential at the local government level. So we started from these real data exchange problems to model these data objects in our data standards. This was done in multidisciplinary working groups with experts coming from these software vendors, but also experts coming from research, which was important because we wanted to have a data standard which is not your typically, I give you a number of XML schemas and that's it. We wanted to have a data format and an exchange standard which was more intelligent than that. So we used a number of semantic web technologies, for example, resource description format, so that we could model our data exchange format in a more intelligent way, which made it easier for the software vendors to map their internal data formats as it's being used in their software packages into the data exchange format which we developed. Now, what's the result? The result is what we call OSLO, which is Dutch for Open Standards for Linked Administrations, and we basically model 3 domains which are important for local government. It's persons, businesses, and also location information. The standard which we developed is compliant with the ISA core vocabularies. A number of people from the ISA unit were even involved in a number of meetings of our working groups. So we made sure that that our own vocabulary is compatible with these ISA core vocabularies. What you can see is that some of the information comes from the base registries, but not all of the information. There's a lot of data items which are only captured at the local level, but which are nevertheless important to model and to be able to exchange between local government. There is even a demand now for this local enrichment to be fed back to the national level so that we can enrich the information which we have, for example, about persons with information about contact information. For those of you who are interested in the standard, you can find more information at the URL which you see mentioned there. I have to warn you though, the standard is in Dutch, so you'll need some Dutch in order to understand the standard. But that was a key decision which was made from the very beginning, that we were not going to make yet another English standard, but a standard in Dutch, because this standard has to be able to be explained and used by the business people. So if the terminology which is being used in the standard has to be compatible and has to be easy to use by the business people. That's why most of our standards for data exchange are in Dutch. What we're doing now is developing the mapping for basically translating the Dutch terms into English terms, which is relatively easy to do since we are compatible with these ISA core vocabularies. What are the next steps we're taking now? We've spent 2 years developing this standard. What we're now doing is we have defined a clause which can be used in calls for public tenders. So local governments who want to force their software vendors to use this standard can simply insert a clause in the call for tenders demanding that their software product or the software they're developing as part of a project has to be compatible with this Oslo standard. So that's a very strict way of enforcing the use of this standard. For the time being, we're relying on voluntary conformance testing. So we expect that these software vendors test their software to see whether it's compatible with this Oslo standard. To be honest, we're already noticing that some of these software vendors are a bit, let's say, too optimistic about the compatibility of their software. So we will probably be introducing a more formal conformance testing protocol where we, as a regional government, will define a number of use cases so that we can test their software with respect to the compliance to this standard, and then their software will get a certificate of compliance, and only if they have this certificate of compliance, their software can be used by local government. Now, local government has to be convinced also to use this standard, so we've set aside money to have some pilot projects where this standard is actually being used as part of a specific project, so that local government can feel and see for itself that using an open standard is to their benefit and also reduces cost in developing their e-government service project. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Hans Arents, e-government Flemish perspective. I believe that this is going to be quite interesting in panel discussion because we are speaking about cross borders and opening, and here's Dutch, quite nationally focused and driven. But that's in the panel session. To complete our second set of presentations, I'm kindly asking here Olli-Pekka Rissanen, Public Sector ICT, Ministry of Finance, Finland. Another Scandinavian Nordic experience, please.
Yes. Thank you very much. It's nice to be here to speak after the lunch. And in the case that you are going to fall in sleep, I explain very shortly what I am going to speak about. I am going to speak about the feelings of the civil servants. And maybe this is going to surprise you that civil servants also have feelings. But my case is e-identification in Finland. It's going to be only the framework, so I am not going to concentrate on that very closely, what is all details in our e-identification. Our e-identification has based on PPP from late 90s. And the same e-IDs are used in the public and private sector services. There are 3 different methods. Netbank IDs has a monopoly in practice in Finland. Mobile ID have a small share, and public national ID card is almost 0. And same time, we have thousands of bilateral agreements. It's so-called 3-corner model. And I'm using this, that this is not a real public-private partnership. It's more like public-private and pay. Because we have an agreement and we pay for these private service providers about the e-identification. It's not a real partnership today. Because they have set their own rules and we follow these rules and of course these agreements about so on, but it's and the payment, but nothing else. If you are married or you have been married, you know the difference of this kind of marriage and real partnership. But in national, the one detail here is that in national there is a national policy, not a legislation, that all these service providers are using this population registry identification and common ID number. But it's not in a law, but it has been in practice. Now we are in a new approach. We are changing that game. We are going to base on open four-corner model. If you are using a Visa card or MasterCard, you know the system that you can use your card here in Latvia and your money is gone from your account in Finland. And so these are the players. There are four corners, two banks, me as a customer and a Latvian shop. So this is the same idea here. But what are our objectives here is that we have an open, fair competition and less these bilateral agreements because it has been a mess. And it has to be very clear for e-service providers how they can buy the service to offer. These e-service providers can use e-identification very simple way. That was the one. And the one and crucial thing is that citizen can use the same e-ID for business and government services or public sector services. All services, they can use the same e-ID system. Because typically people are using much more, example, the net bank than government services. And this is a direction we want to go, that no more services. And now we have been in stagnation in Finland, that there have been no new technologies, but just last week there was announcement of two new technologies, and this is one of our approaches. And now we are put on the regulation that eID will be based on population registry infant identification. But how we are building up this partnership? We are using law, we are using a governmental decrees, we are using a common agreement for all the partners, and some bilateral agreements. And the government is involved only for three of these first. Of course, we are not involved in bilateral agreements between the different stakeholders. It's open. And so we hope that we are going to have a less administrative burden. And this is real public partnership. But part of the story, this process, how we have done during the last year to change that system, it was not easy. Because what we have to do is that we do it together. It's not so that the government or civil servants are saying that this is the way it works and when you follow. Of course, to be honest, we do it together, but we have that legislation is like a stick back behind your back, so you can say that yes, if you don't agree, we are going to use a legislation. Of course, there was a little bit this kind, but mostly we didn't have only formal openness. It's not enough. We open it really that process. And here comes the feelings of the civil servant. This is my comfort zone here. If I move like this, I feel a little bit more discomfort. And if I have to go here, I'm Finn. I have to go here, where the center of this podium. I feel very the Finnish way I'm speaking like. And this was our feeling when we opened it, that discussion with all the private partners, because they really aggressive is not the right word maybe, but they really didn't accept us as a partner in the beginning. So that they didn't believe that we are really open. They didn't believe that we have some hidden agenda there, that we are building up some national ID card, and this is something on that. And so these we civil servants, when we are building up real partnership, we have to go to the discomfort zone, because we don't know exactly. I suppose so that we don't know exactly what is the how the business is going on and how the business people think. We are civil servants and we are looking for that. But here, example in this case, we have to think who is going to benefit from this. Of course, the government is going to benefit. I hope that the eID providers is going to benefit, but the most benefit is going to citizen and e-service providers. And I think that's the reason we could move from the comfort zone to discomfort zone. That's the only reason. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And absolutely right, you can stay in your discomfort zone and sit down, and other people are joining you. I'm asking again on the stage right now, Uldis Pabērzis, please, and Hans Arents also joining. And as other team players in the field, we are asking Aldis Vilums, Solutions Architect, WW Public Sector Services, Microsoft Europe. Applause, round of applause. Ingmārs Puķis, Vice President, Member of the Board, Limited Liability Company, Latvia's Mobilized Telephones, Latvia. Applause to Ingmārs Puķis. And the third one was planned, Jānis Bokta, Chief Executive Officer, State Joint Stock Company, Latvian State Radio and Television Center, Latvia. He is not here because he has a nice happening precisely now in family. He's becoming father, or the child is coming, and I believe the child and conference, it's hard to decide, of course, but he took a chance on the child. Well, the wife will be satisfied from that, I believe. And it means that you are minority in this particular moment, and we are increasing the gaming in our field. We have two newcomers. We're gonna start because I have some kind of energy link with Mr. Ingmārs Puķis, so I am giving you the catch box, and of course, short comment about what is happening around, and are you happy about this? Because we know that public service, they have feelings. Do have feelings also entrepreneurs. So please.
Oh my God, we have lots of feelings, and it's so nice to realize that these feelings are on both sides, and probably something beautiful might stem from this. But listening to previous and also to previous session as well, I had some sort of a deja vu, because I have been listening to that sort of discussions in a telco sector for many years, and the questions of we have created a beautiful service and no one is using it, and how to make them use it, and so forth and so on, and what we have came to realize, and I have been also listening here, that this realization is coming also to this much more complex system of government, is that feelings and humans are, and human feelings are probably most important part, because if the system has to be nice, it has to be likable, and it has to be simple, and probably I would totally agree with many speakers here that I guess that the ecosystem and the playground for public and private partnership has to be set forth by the government, and so these things would be open, and I guess the private sector might give a very good hand to actually make these services needed and make them simple and probably liked even, I guess. So.
Okay, thank you for...
That's my feelings.
Yes, we are now giving to Aldis possibility, because he's also first time today on this stage. So your opening remarks for our public session.
Okay, so I'm representing a big company. Of course, we are partnering with many governments, actually many governments around the world. And the partnering, although we are a technology company, at the core, is at different levels. We are helping in education. This is the people part of the problem, so making sure that people get educated in the way of using technologies. For example, we are currently in library building, so we were partnering with the Trešais Tēvdēls program to help educate people, get them into the technologies. This is just one example. Another example is during the work, for example, I'm doing, working with multiple customers around Europe, Middle East, and Africa, is actually bringing those experiences to from different customers to other different customers and helping them to plan their roadmaps. But now, going specifically in maybe technology area, what I see as a big problem, and some of these things already were mentioned during the previous talks, is this difference between what commercial customers are doing and what public sector customers are doing. We know that there has been this lag always, in public sector, I would say. Again, there are, of course, some exceptions. But now, with the advent of new things that are coming, again, technology speak, big data things, cloud things, the rapid iteration cycles that we have are causing, I think, even bigger disconnect here. And I think one of the big problems we need to solve, and maybe this is also something that we can discuss and maybe learn from the experience of others, is how we can make sure that commercial guys are not kind of shooting away with very innovative solutions on some of these new technologies, new platforms, leaving public sector dealing with the typical things they're doing now. Buying infrastructure, caring about the infrastructure, and actually spending a lot of effort and money on things that maybe others are not spending money at all anymore. So that's kind of opening for some discussion as well.
Okay, and at particular moment we have a chain of good questions that came here in. Together with the questions, one lady in the audience said, you are doing sport in front of us, like team games, so here you go, take this to make some sportic noises. I don't know why this lady is bringing something like that around, and everyday agenda, quite specific, but anyway, to wake up, we are doing this right now. And the first question is, that's quite interesting. No habit changes of people. We want change the environment, but we don't want to change ourselves. Is this possible? Again, philosophy, and I believe in the movie Avengers: Age of Ultron, there is the main title in this trailer that you want to change the world but don't want to change. So what about this? Is this really possible to lead the process from the top and leave the people that, I believe you said that no need to change habits. Let's do everything with no habit changes. Please, yes, drop or say.
Quick comment from our side. So one of our lead UX researchers at Microsoft, what he is saying, he said that there is such a thing which is called God's law. And unfortunately, it's almost constant, right? The innovation amount that person can take, it's unfortunately constant. So definitely we as technology vendors need to invent the ways of how we, all that great innovation that kind of exceeds that, God's law line, that we bring it back to the people. So I think this definitely is a task for all of us.
Okay.
Yes. People usually, when you bring something new to them, as it was mentioned before, it's first is, no, I don't want to change anything. And that we have learned also in our experience, that you cannot introduce something new and expect that it will be taken away and used by everybody within a week, month, year. It takes several years to get used. You should teach people how to use things, and when they get used to them, they think already, oh, that's what I have been already using, or everybody around has been using around me. So it takes quite a lot of time to change people's attitude. Yeah. Therefore, you start with things what they know and change from that.
Okay. Sounds quite manipulative, but good. The Finnish experience.
Can I comment? Yes, thanks.
Yes,
was that the question about the people or civil servants? Okay, I think that people can change and civil servants can change as an individual. But when we are speaking about the organization, like some agency, the change is much more difficult. We are very good changers when we are change our how we use the technology and everything like that. But when we are going to the organizational level, we are saying this is not possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The fair answer.
But
Fair.
people can change. People are changing all the time.
So your slogan is like a bit opposite. We have to change the people.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it means 1-1. Okay. You can drop back now. Wonderful.
I want to come back a little bit to this commercial versus public sector thing, because the problem is, and why I think the organizations will have to change for sure, right? And the way they serve customers is that people now are used to how they receive services from commercial companies, right? And again, they are using all these, public nice services that update all the time, that are fresh all the time, new capabilities are coming all the time. And this is, I think, where a lot of force probably will come, towards the public sectors to say, why can't you do something similar? So this is, again, the problem is how do we solve this in public sector to make sure that this innovation at a rapid pace is possible. But we'll have to change because of that pressure, I think.
Okay, we are switching to the next. Oh, I have to do that in the middle. Okay, now we are switching to the next, and that's quite provocative, in fact. Forget about cross borders. Like, wow. Maybe we should, that's good that maybe we should maintain only local solutions. They will be delivered better, closer to people, more understandable. How can you comment that? I believe the roots are coming out from your perspective, that Dutch system.
The Belgian system.
Belgium system. Oh,
We speak Dutch, but
yes, you can call me Lithuanian. Please.
no, it's important to realize, as I argued, that most service delivery takes place at the local level, but for most of these services, information is needed which comes from the regional or the national level. And indeed, if people start moving from country to country or just live next to the border of a country, you quite frequently are confronted with the need of exchange of data across borders, and then you inevitably need standards in order to be able to exchange data between countries. So I would argue that your front end or your customer-facing part of your services has to be at the local level, but there has to be a whole machinery behind it at the regional level, at the national level, at the European level, to enable this seamless service delivery at the local level.
Okay, very good. To whom you pass? I saw that Ingmars is reacting lively.
Yes, I do. Actually, we have seen this same discussion going on in the telecommunication part, because if you look from the central perspective of whole Europe, it might seem that cross-border thing is the most important one. But however, what we see is that people don't actually travel that much, and if we think of priorities, that's always the first priority is, let's say, make your house tidy and make the things in order in your own place. And actually, probably the first priority on cross-border part would be to make it easier for companies to cooperate on pan-European level rather than actually do this for the people. And actually, people will follow the services of these companies probably, and not probably vice versa, I guess.
Thank you. Yes, please pass the cube.
Coming back to the fact that actually many European countries, and actually the countries outside of Europe, are actually building very similar things, right? The priorities are very similar. Again, me traveling around, seeing different things. I think, yes, at the, from endpoint perspective, probably we need to prioritize the local countries, but definitely there is a lot of reuse potential across European Union and also other countries even. So I think there needs to be this balance of prioritize implementation locally, but definitely reuse things that are defined somewhere else, somebody who has done a good solution somewhere else, so try to reuse at least the concepts, if not the actual implementation.
Okay, thank you. And please pass the cube to Olli, because the next question is addressed directly about Finland. And I absolutely agree with the idea that chance for success have only e-ideas that are used hot or not, I cannot understand, only for public services. But what about internet banking? Can you elaborate further Finland's experience in cooperation with banks in eID area? Or banks and eID, can you elaborate this?
Yes, I think that because of the role of the banks has been so strong in e-identification in Finland, so we can say that our all e-government development has been because the banks are offering this eID. And so, but I can say that the cooperation has been very nice, but of course when somebody is in a monopoly position, so it makes sometimes this so-called partnership more difficult, dominated partner, dominating partner. And so there have been a lot of problems like this, so that banks are taking the very strong role. Can I use the possibility to have one comment here about this public-private cooperation in general, because I think that this has been on our agenda for a very long time, and we have, and we have different kind of thoughts about that. But I think that the one word, again, is going to change the rules of the game, and that's the digitalization. Because it's a change. It's a change in all how we are using information and how these people are, as you say, that how the people see the different services and so on, and what's it happening behind this in the back office, and everything is going to change. And so I believe that this public-private cooperation has something very different forms in a couple of years, because the development is very fast.
The world is changing together with...
Yes, or we can try to, in the public sector, we can try to build up the walls around us to protect us from this change, like case Uber.
Wonderful. Additionally, my compliment to you, I like that you are raising the question, can I ask or can I tell about something, and then you answer yourself, yes, yes. And then you continue. That's the finish after midnight, I believe. Very good. The next question is coming out, in fact, what you are describing, and the question is, contactless, transparency, attitude change, but isn't it maintaining ignorance of citizens? With, I believe the underlining here is that if we are absolutely, well, like public service, serving to the citizens, giving everything, they are not thinking enough anymore and just taking the service. That's the question, not mine. So answer.
Me.
No, you can pass.
Yes, I do that.
Yeah, wonderful chance. Oh, lucky one.
I think we should not underestimate the intelligence of the general public. Mm-hmm. If we see how intelligently they already use open data, or if for example, the UK government provides information on how they spend their budget, and people do investigative journalism on what we do with their taxpayers' money, I think we have to brace ourselves for more transparency than we can cope with. So we should certainly continue this movement towards openness and prove to people that we are providing value for money. Eh?
Okay, it's becoming more transparent, in fact, and we are living in better society from day to day, from philosophy perspective.
Well, we're telling them that we have less and less money to provide services. We have to make clear where our priorities are, so that they can either approve our choices or not approve our choices. Eh? That's also the reason why I see this private-public cooperation, this balance changing in the future, because we as governments will sometimes have to make very tough choices and say to people, either we cut your social security benefits, but we still provide certain electronic service, or we do not provide certain electronic service anymore, but you still get your social security benefits. But as long as we provide a platform where private companies can still provide services on top of our platform, we still can deliver the services that they expect, but we'll have to make some tough budgetary choices in the future. That's something I certainly see happening at my national level.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yes, yeah. Comment?
I think definitely this is a very important point I want to stress once again. So e-services are not necessarily just, for fun. Okay, it makes life easier potentially, for the actual users of them, but, the problems that e-services are intended to solve also go into these deeper levels, like electronic healthcare that is close to my heart as well. So this is the kind of in industry. I think there is agreement at the moment that the way to solve the burden for the health payments at the government levels is to go this e-health way and to use some of these advanced technologies to keep people out with some technology help out of the hospitals. So that's important.
I like how you said that e-health is close to my heart. Well, definitely. Ingmars has something to say.
Also a little reference to the, it always becomes easier to develop a new service if you can philosophically answer to the question, would the world be a better place with this new service? Because there is no reason to, build a church of digitalization just to pray and make all things digital. No one needs it, and no one needs your digitalization if it makes more friction and if it makes the previous service harder to use. So just don't spend zillions of euros just to make it digital. It's unnecessary. But if it makes things faster and it saves some time or understandability or gives some transparency, which is probably a great point, then there is a reason. There always has to be a reason for becoming digital, I think.
Okay, thank you. The last question from my side, yes, here, and then we're going to drop the catch box in the public. How you are speaking on access to data from level to level, national, supranational, etc. How access to data is going together with data safety? We are entering cloud era, how you are considering cloudy solutions. I don't know what this really means, but cloudy solutions on the ear, it's like, well, smells fishy. Cloudy solutions in the context and data safety at all. So who is keen to start answering? You can start, Ingmars, in fact, and then you pass the cue.
Thank you. Well, I think data security, what we have seen is one of the first products you could actually really sell to big corporations in the smartphone, let's say, era, because everything goes mobile, is actually mobile device management solutions which we are trying out here, because there is no borderline anymore, because your employees are walking around with the smartphones at their private time and at their job. If they are in the bank or wherever, it's always not secure, because therefore the evolution does its part. Therefore there is all new sets of services that you can actually use as an employer to actually limit the use of smartphones at work. This is probably a very mundane example, but I believe that evolution will be beautiful also on the security part, also on the government side. I know.
Okay, and passing the cube. Yes, please.
Just comment. I don't understand this discussion at all. How we can see that the cloud is a reason to risk data protection? It doesn't make sense for me.
Well, it's logical. It's
because it's a cloud, and so we can, and it's something new, so we can risk. Yes, so we can risk the data protection.
Well, once we had here the conference on the e-security, and at the end of the day, after 5 hours of talking about clouds or machines on the spot, the idea was the cloud is wonderful, it's perfect, it's safe, but you have to make a copy in machine. So anyway, yes, open question, definitely open question. Someone else, yes, please, the short comment, and then we are switching to the public.
Here, one of the 3 hypercloud providers. I think I should say that security definitely is the top of the minds, top concern for many customers that we're working, both commercial and also public sector, of course. But this is also the reason why we are investing heavily on making sure that there are no problems, glitches in the whole process. One thing that we are pioneering also is the various standards towards the cloud-based information protection, right? And so effectively, at the end of the day, this is the set of mechanisms that we have, and then your trust in the fact that we are implementing them properly, and we have various audits to prove it, also certifications. So I think with time, people will just see that it's kind of the same. If it's a cloud data center, if it's your local data center, at the end of the day, it's kind of the same concepts there. So,
okay, at this particular moment, I'm taking the chance of moderator because we are a bit running out of time. So one drop in public, only one pass in public right now. Who's gonna be exclusive one? Who's gonna take this cube? One by one, not all together. Okay, then I'm just dropping to this gentleman who is writing email to his mom. Okay, be careful. Oh, and we killed Invisible Man. Anyway, at your legs there is a cube, so you are absolutely privileged to raise the question, if you have one, or just to say a comment, or just to wish us happy year 2015. Please.
Of course, I wish a happy day.
Thank you.
Greetings to participants. And it's private, public. It means cooperation in different levels. And I like Uldis Pabērzis, who said about this transparency. And do we know each other? Public about private and private about public. Is it hope to know each us better in the future? When we know data, more open data, and more cloud-based solutions or different others? Is it right way?
Thank you. Or continuing what Olli said about this happy marriage, are the open data within this marriage of public-private solution, just knowing each other more and more?
I think it is from both sides should be defined how far can you go. From public side, private should know where our funds has been used. Me as a person, I should know if I'm entitled to some funding from state or local municipality, and how much I actually have got. Because from other side, state already knows about everything about me, because I am working, paying taxes, and all this information is already with state. So I think it's other side more now should be opened, and yep.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Please.
Yeah, I think actually open data is, I would treat it open data as a contract actually between the public and the private, right? The open data is a mechanism that enables private guys to party on top of the data, to develop derivative solutions, do some investigative journalism, so many things like that. So I think that's probably the benefit, the main benefit of open data. Also, of course, the benefit of open data is the fact that then governments don't have to build the user interfaces necessarily themselves. They can rely on these third parties to kind of party on the data and do things. And there are good examples of open data usage. In our experience, actually, the interesting thing is that local authorities are the first ones that are doing it. We have cities like Barcelona, London, Glasgow that are publishing open data, and a lot of derivative assets have been created for the benefit of the citizens and tourists in those cities.
Thank you. On the partnership and how to increase the efficiency of partnership, the last concluding remarks, and then we are going in the break again. Ingmar's maybe some... Oh, he was keeping the mic in the pocket, so nice.
Yes, there's another mic. No, I still, probably one final remark is to be human and to see some reason for being even more human, whatever you do in digitalization, I guess.
Okay, be more human, please. Belgium.
And I think to achieve efficiency, we indeed need to work together, private and public enterprises, so that we can deliver the services that the citizen expects from us.
Working together, thank you, and maybe from Olli also. Yeah, there's the microphone coming. Oh, you have already.
One. Okay. I have now two. It's better. And I believe that when we start to look from the citizen side or customer side, when we look at the services, when it's a good start to think how we can have a better public-private cooperation, not starting from us, starting from the citizen.
Starting from citizen. Yeah. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please, huge applause to our second panelist. And of course, Arents is coming on the stage and giving gifts now. The gifts are there, they're behind. Don't be afraid, they are there. Not, they are. And the gifts from organizers to our speakers. And we are going to short coffee break, 25 minutes coffee break, and then we continue with a wonderful experience of Estonia. And then we continue with the final panel session. Thank you very much. Coffee break.